The bitter battle between Scotland's First Minister Humza Yousaf and anti-trans activist JK Rowling has concluded, with Rowling coming out on top. Sky News All-Stars Liz Storer, Bond and Kosha Gada take a look at how JK Rowling played a part in toppling Scotland's most powerful man. The beginning of the end for Humza Yousaf started when JK Rowling condemned Scotland's newly imposed hate crime laws, which extended to trans-identifying people but ignored biological women, reveals GB News host Darren Grimes.
Well, JK Rowling's not backing down of her criticism of Scotland's First Minister. He's revealed that transgender women will be protected under the new misogyny laws. Now, the Harry Potter author has called him out. She said, once again, Humza Yousaf makes his absolute contempt for women and their rights clear. Women were excluded from his nonsensical hate crime law. Now he introduces a misogyny law designed to also protect men. Darren, she hits a nail on the head again, doesn't she?
Yeah, she absolutely does. Yeah, it is perverse, frankly, that actually we should be prioritising police resources on defending the rights of those who, and I'm sure actually you've witnessed it yourself on social media. It doesn't take much trawling through to see actually the most awful, vile abuse from people who, there are political candidates in Scotland that have been stood down from political parties, trans people that is, who have said the most horrible things online about JK Rowling and others and been suspended for it. I worry that the culture that's been perpetuated here is one that says that actually women's rights come second now, that actually the pursuit of so-called equality is leading to a hierarchy of victimhood in which trans is the new creme de la creme, the pièce de résistance that we all have to actually watch out for. When actually, I put it to you that when we have the likes of when the self-identification laws went through in Scotland originally, we had a man called Adam Graham, who went by the name of Isla Bryson, who was in prison. Now, he went into a female prison, saying that his name was now Isla. He was a double rapist, Gabriela. This is the perverse incentive. We are enabling some of society's most awful people through this legislation in the name of so-called progress and so-called kindness. I don't think there's anything kind about rolling back women's rights and protections.
And it seems JK Rowling's outspoken commentary on social media about the issue got the attention of plenty of Scots, with the First Minister inundated with complaints after the announcement of the new law, says Sky News host Bond.
We've been bringing you the story all week about the new hate speech laws over in Scotland, whereby you can be locked up for 7 years for, calling someone a boomer or having a go at someone about being transgender. We told you last night that the expert police who've been set up to investigate all of the complaints that are flooding in were flooded by, within 24 hours, nearly 4,000 complaints. Well, it turns out the majority of those complaints are for, wait for it, the First Minister of Scotland. And why might it be for the First Minister of Scotland? You tell me.
The Lord President, white. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white. The Solicitor General, white. The Chief Constable, white. Every Deputy Chief Constable, white. Every Assistant Chief Constable, white. The Head of the Law Society, white. The Head of the Faculty of Advocates, white. Every prison governor, white.
White. 11 whites indeed. How delicious to see this blowing backlight.
The maximum sentence for a hate crime under his new law is 7 years. 7 times 11, buddy. We'll see in 77 years.
You know, the other funny thing about this story is the minister who's responsible for this legislation someone rang police pretending to be her and made a complaint that she'd been a victim of hate speech, which she was oblivious to until she got a phone call from the hate speech champions wanting to follow it up and realised she'd been the butt of the joke.
Giving them hell.
Absolutely, inundate them with complaints. The law will become unworkable.
The backlash contributed to destabilisation in the party, which pushed Yousaf to resign this week, according to Sky News All-Star Kosha Gada.
Hey, another Scottish minister's gone under a bus.
Sure has. I think we're seeing predictable consequences of, I think, what's happened in Scotland and certainly in much of the Western world with this coalition of the fringes in both sides, especially on the left. Their coalition fell apart where he didn't agree with something the Greens wanted, an extreme position according to what mainstream views would be around EVs and all of that. But more broadly, he's been in hot water for many things, criminalizing hate speech, the trans issue. He was in the crosshairs of JK Rowling and all of that. So I think that's why this particular individual is gone, and the party overall seems to certainly have some headwinds after a long winning streak for a long period of time.
And I think it pushes off devolution, doesn't it, when they can't get their house in order?
Very good. Kosha didn't even mention his name. That's well done.
Humza Yousaf.
And the reaction to Humza Yousaf's resignation has been brutal. GB News host Darren Grimes was scathing, saying the politician's pronouns are now ex, former and past.
Darren, the First Minister of Scotland, Humza Yousaf, well, he resigned this week after just over a year in office. What can be said about his reign? It was short, it certainly wasn't sweet. What brought him undone in the end?
Oh, well, Rita, I'm like the cat that got the cream today, I'll tell you that much, because has been useless. He was the trans self-ID supremo. I've been on this show before discussing that. And actually, Rita, his pronouns are now ex, former and past, which is absolutely glorious. And I'm delighted because for a simple reason, right? I'm grateful to him for, he is, as you mentioned, the second shortest serving Scottish First Minister in history. And he actually revealed to the world that in progressive politics, racism is real, right? All too real. But it's anti-white racism. Because his infamous anti-white speech in which he stood up in the Scottish Parliament and waxed lyrical about how there are too many white people in posts of power in a country that is overwhelmingly white, as if that's a surprise to all of us. That's what he'll be remembered as. He'll be triggered to actually learn, Risa, that the colour of his severance slip is indeed white. He is a useless hate crime aficionado. You know, he has wasted countless oodles of police time and resources on trans self-ID hate crimes and all these other things. He allowed a double rapist to access a female-only prison. He built a ferry, Rita, where it went absolutely nowhere and had painted on windows on the taxpayer, I kid you not. And he had an obsession, fundamentally, he had an obsession not with Glasgow, but with Gaza. This is a man that stood up in Pakistan and he announced he is a son of Pakistan. Then when he's in Scotland, he announces he's a son of Scotland, wouldn't be anywhere else. He is an identity politics obsessed clown.
Sky News presenter Gabriela Power highlighted the public backlash.
Now, having a quick look online, here are some of the messages that are being posted about his resignation. One person posted on X, "Good riddance." Another wrote, "Now they have to clean up his mess." And another posted, "Good news, I hope they elect someone better." So it's clear Humza Yousaf is not going to be missed.
Human rights activist Miranda Yardley agrees, saying Humza Yousaf is the instrument of his own undoing.
Let's talk about Scotland. The First Minister there, Humza Yousaf, is fighting for his political survival. His coalition with the Greens has collapsed. The Scottish Conservatives have launched a vote of no confidence against him. How much of his troubles are connected to the rather radical policies he's backed, including around transgender policies and also those Orwellian hate speech laws?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's totally he is the instrument of his own undoing, as is the SNP. The SNP, exactly what happens when you have a a political party that has pretty much an uncontested majority. It was propped up by the Butte House Agreement in the latter years with a coalition with the Green Party, who once sold themselves as the party of science and now is frankly the party of nonsense.
But Scotland may not have respite for very long. Humza Yousaf's likely replacement is a copy and paste version of himself, reveals Sky News All-Star Liz Storer.
Go to Scotland, where yesterday we all rejoiced in the streets. Well, I know I did, to see the back of Humza Yousaf, which was the first minister in Scotland for a very short period of time. He's probably best known in all your minds for his white speech, in which he got up in the chamber and basically berated everyone for the fact that they were white. The majority of those in power in Scotland were white. But we've all got to stop rejoicing in the streets, because it turns out that the leader of the Labour Party in Scotland, his name is Anas Sawa, if a snap election were to be called tomorrow, actually stands a pretty good chance of winning. And spot the problem here, because I had a look into him today, and I don't know. I'm just wondering if you can see the difference between him and the last guy.
Every chief executive of every council and every government department, white. Every director of a department in Scotland, white. Every principal of a college or university in Scotland, white. Every head teacher in Scotland, white. Every chair of a public sector body in Scotland, white. Every High Court judge in Scotland, white. Every prison governor in Scotland, white.
That incredible Scottish accent, white.
It's not the same guy, just so you know. That is now Anas Sawa. So copy-paste, basically. Scotland, why do you keep voting for these people? He went on in that speech to say, why is this? Is it because we do not have the talent? It is because we do not have the ability. It is because the opportunity does not exist, or worse yet, is it because people do not think that they are wanted or welcome? These are the fundamental issues we should be addressing. No, mate, it's because Scotland is a 96% white country, and there's this little thing called the law of averages. I don't know if you've heard of it. So here he is basically insinuating that this is such a racist country, people who aren't white aren't being given the same opportunities, and yet there he is in a position of power as the leader of the Labour Party in Scotland, defying every single accusation that he's levelling at everybody else.